Okay, so I think we're all good to get started. So hi there and welcome everyone to today's Off the Page event run by Kogan Page. My name's Natasha. I am a Senior Marketing Executive here at Kogan Page and I'm going to be hosting today's webinar for you. For those of you who don't know, Kogan Page is an independent publisher of business books and content, and we've created these off-the-page events to bring key topics to life. Today we have Jon Mowat and Gay Flashman, who will be talking about how to produce relevant and engaging content during lockdown. Please note that this event is recorded, so we will be sharing a recording of the webinar with you afterwards as well. We're also going to be live tweeting about the event using the hashtag off the page. So please do feel free to join the conversation on Twitter and don't forget to tag us at KP Marketing and also Jon and Gay as well. And you can see their Twitter handles there on the screen. If you would like more information on any of the topics discussed today, remember that you can also save 25% on both Jon and Gay's books by using the code OTP25 at koganpage.com. Just a few housekeeping rules. Please do feel free to post any questions that you might have in the chat. We will be doing a Q&A towards the end of the session today, but we will also be picking up questions throughout. If you do use the chat, please also make sure that you send the message to all panelists and attendees, just so everyone can see any questions or comments that you might have. You should all be automatically on mute, but please do remember to keep your microphone muted at all times as well, just so we can keep things running nice and smoothly. So I'm going to hand you over to Jon and Gay now, who are going to kick things off with a quick introduction about themselves and then moving into why they think content matters so much right now. So Gay, would you like to take it away first?
Yeah, thanks Natasha. I'm just going to share my screen. So hi everybody, my name's Gay Flashman and I am the CEO and founder of Formative Content. I'm based in Buckinghamshire and that's where I'm talking to you from in the UK. It was quite sunny for once over here at the moment. I'm going to be talking to you about how to create engaging and relevant content during lockdown. And this, I'm building on the book that was published in January, but it seems like a lifetime ago now. I run a company called Formative. It's a digital content company and we work with these large scale global brands, Microsoft in the US, the World Economic Forum in Switzerland, Standard Chartered in Singapore. So all of the people that we work with are having their own challenges in each of those different regions. So looking forward to hearing your comments as we go. If you've got any questions as we go, I'm going to be talking to you about building trust with content, very much in the B2B space, but also relevant, I guess, to some extent to the B2C space. So I'm going to hand back to Jon, who's going to pick up and get us started.
Myself. Hello. Good morning. Thanks, Gay. Hopefully everyone can see me now. Hello. Thanks very much for having me. I'm Jon, I'm MD here at Hurricane, and I too am going to share my screen. That is the plan. So if I go like this, I can run you through some slides. Hopefully everyone can see that. Gay, give me a thumbs up if you can see that. That sounds, yeah, there we go. Okay, so I was a BBC filmmaker at BBC One, BBC Two. I went around the world making documentaries for sort of that seaside rescue and heroin addicts and cheaters. And I went and spent 6 months in Iraq doing a documentary for BBC Two where I got shot at and I thought, I'm not going to do that anymore. So I came back to the UK. I set up Hurricane, which is a video marketing agency. And we work with loads of different brands in the UK and globally. So very much in the video marketing area. I'm also an author, obviously, part of today's thing called Video Marketing Strategy. And I've written a book, I've written an online course called Video Marketing Strategy. So basically a total marketing nerd. And what I'm going to be talking today is about really the sort of practical side of the content that you should be getting out at the moment. We're going to be looking at some SEO tips and also what people have been getting good and bad on. So what people are doing well on. So as part of that, I think I'll just crack straight on to the first question, right? It's like, well, does content matter? Obviously content matters, but the right content matters more now than ever. And I'm thinking here, Gay will be talking later about reputation and brand, but I'm really here talking about search and content marketing. And just to take you back a bit, right? Holding your audience's attention is getting harder all the time. At the moment, the perceived effectiveness of marketers' content is just 34%. Now, what that means is that only 7 out of 10 marketers feel their content is, only 3 out of 10 content marketers feel their content is effective. And that means that 7 out of 10 people actually don't think their content is working well. I've got the numbers there wrong. This is a good start. And actually, this is becoming increasingly important. So Hurricane have been working with an agency down here in the Southwest called Firehouse to do a survey of clients. And what we've actually found is that if you look at the channel on the left of this slide, 72% of brands are increasing activity in organic social, 56% of increasing activity in B2B. And again, on the strategic side of things, 84% of people are putting more effort into social media and 52% more into SEO. So when we're thinking about only the 3 out of 10 marketers feel their content works, well, I'm afraid life is getting harder because people are focusing more on content more. So now is the time to be getting these things right. And really, in order to say what the right content is that you should be doing, I think the really useful thing is to look at what kind of position your brand is in during COVID. And the way I'm thinking about it is really very much just to skip through, in that your category will come into one of 4 areas. It's going to be thriving, it's going to be looking to maintain, it's going to be looking to survive, or you might be looking to invest. And I think once you understand which one of those 4 buckets of brand that you're in, I think it's really helpful. Obviously, in terms of thriving, e-commerce is amazingly well, online health and wellness, publishers, healthcare, these are all doing really well. Brands that are looking to maintain are more legal, insurance and education. And then there's other brands that are looking just to survive, just to get through lockdown. Hotels, gyms, cruises. A lot of my clients are in this sort of space, and it's quite interesting to talk to them. And then also it's interesting to think about whether you're looking to invest. In actual fact, only 7% of companies are looking to sort of invest heavily at the moment for future growth. So it's quite an interesting thing who's doing that. And the reason I've said all of this is that depending on which bucket of brand you are in will affect what kind of effect you want your marketing to do. So if you're in the Thrive category, you need to be putting out good content to capture the share of voice, to grow the market share. And as we know, every 10 points of extra share of voice is going to be giving you about 0.5% more of market share. So if you're in that Thrive category, we're looking to get a bigger share of voice, increase the traffic to our website, and build short tail results with very now specific content. Equally, if you're in the maintain category, if you're one of these brands that's just keeping going as normal, you have to be looking to use content to maintain that market share. You need to be using it to build short-term results now and long-tail results as we move forward. And as Gay will be talking about later, securing brand, tone of voice and trust. And if, like many businesses, something like 52% of businesses, you're in the survival mode, we are looking to keep costs down. But avoiding knee-jerk reactions, we have to make sure that we're using content so we don't lose sight of our share of voice, so we're keeping trust and we're protecting the future, and that we are as much as possible using content to build long-tail results with evergreen content. And then finally, if you're one of the 7% of brave people who've decided, look, we're aggressively going to go for market share, this is about advertising impact and search results. So the question of why you should be doing content now is it's different depending on where you are, but as you can see, it's important for all businesses. And now I'm going to hand back over to Gay, who's going to pick up on, I've said why it's important, and Gay can pick up on the next topic.
Excellent,
Wait,
thanks.
I stop sharing?
Yeah, you stop sharing, I'll pick up. Thanks, John. Some great stats there. I'm now going to share my screen with you and just move on here. So why does content matter now? So some of those stats there. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I think we all want a bit of reassurance. Whether you're in that group of companies that is seeing their livelihoods disappearing overnight, I think we've all been impacted in some way, haven't we, by what's happening. Wherever we are, I know India, Chennai still in lockdown, red zones, Singapore, a little bit of movement, the US, lots of lockdown there, Europe, a real constraint on movement. And I think really what we're finding is whether you're B2C or B2B, or whether you're just a normal human being, we all want a bit of reassurance. But let's face it, we can't get a hug from anyone at the moment other than the people in our own households. And I mean really a kind of metaphorical hug, not a, I mean, how are we going to get reassurance? Who are we going to look to trust? Now, the issue at the moment for all of us, I guess, to some extent, but certainly here in the UK, is there's a crisis of trust. And I've got some stats here from the Edelman Trust Barometer. you'll see that the large box on your left there, no institution is seen as both competent and ethical. That is a major issue, and that's something that's been seen over the last 20 years, that generally we don't trust our politicians, we don't trust our leaders. You may think Trump is very trustworthy, but not many people do. You may trust Boris Johnson, the UK PM, but others don't. So there is a real gulf of trust, and we need people and leaders to look to and reassure us. And there's been a real focus on corporate purpose, on the idea that companies can step in, and that companies can really step in and steal a march and really have something to say that's relevant to us as consumers. And that could be us as consumers as B2B purchasers or B2C purchasers. So now more than ever, I think there's a real sense that companies can step into this vacuum, this trust vacuum. In fact, according to Edelman, 76% of people, and that generally means buyers, who are quite often the people we're trying to contact with our content, they want CEOs and organisations, companies to actually take the lead and start talking. They want to know what you think as an organisation, as a company. Could be that you're a small business, could be a mid-sized business or a massive enterprise, but ultimately it's about getting your voice heard. You've got to get out there, step in and start telling stories. Now, a couple of posts here I've just screen grabbed for you. We work with Microsoft. That chap in the middle is the chairman, Brad Smith, and Microsoft have been posting quite a lot about the work that they're doing with partners around supporting communities. You know, they're a company, Satya Nadella, as the leader of that company, along with Brad Smith, have really put their money where their mouth is. They are saying, we believe this as an organisation, we're not afraid to say it. The same with large companies like Tata, TCS, they're on the right-hand side, talking very honestly and genuinely about what they believe. And then Centrica there, that one was a video message to saying clap for carers. So it's about organisations starting to give messages that aren't necessarily about what they do per se, but it's about what they feel or what they believe. What we've also noticed in terms of what's the impact of COVID is, as well as us all seeking reassurance and a way of finding trust in companies and partners, that we're all, that actually buying habits have changed. So there is still spend, people are still spending money. They might be spending it in different areas, but they certainly are spending it. We're finding digitization, technology is a big area of growth. And as John pointed out, other sectors are really feeling the pinch. That's retail, hotels, and all of those places where we have to have in real life experiences. Migration to digital is a big trend, and also remote servicing. So how do we service our clients and our customers by either remote working or remote service and delivery? John, I'm going to hand back to you at that stage.
Thank you very much. So now that we've kind of established why content is important, for reputation, for brand, for storytelling, I'm going to sort of just drill down into three kind of key things that I think people should be doing now. These are checking that we're getting the basics right, making sure that we're creating content for the now, and also advertising. And I am kind of be going into some kind of small details, but I think the whole thing about using content for SEO is it's very much about incremental changes. So every time you do something small, you get 0.1% better results on search, or you get 0.1% better results on incoming. So it's just about those incremental changes. So theoretically, if I now go share screen and go to this, and like this, hopefully you can now see my screen. So these are the things we're going to talk about, and I'm going to get around to some real sort of nitty-gritty basics. If you're one of the brands that is at home and you have some time, or maybe you're in the thick of it and you've got too much on, there's always time to get the basics right. And number one for me at the moment is making sure that the content on our sites is maximizing page speed and crawlability. So get yourself onto Google Test My Site or GT Metrics and just make sure that everything is in line with your site speed. At Hurricane, we've been working quite a lot on our site speed, and actually on GT Metrics, we've got a Class A report, 91%, and then a couple of weeks ago, I went on to Think with Google, and apparently the site was slow. So it's worth running these tests just to make sure that the content on your site is working as effectively as possible. So that's a really good basic thing that your content, you should be using your time to do at the moment. The next thing to be doing in terms of this is on-site duplicate content. Now, the median is actually 19% of content on websites are duplicates of itself. And we really are looking to get less than 10% or 10% if we can. Now, a lot of it, like your footers and your headers, you're not going to be able to do anything about. But as much as possible, just go through your site and take the opportunity to get rid of duplicate. And again, looking at Hurricane, I ran a thing recently using SiteLiner. And you can see that we've got two websites there at the top, members organizations and trade organizations, which are sharing 77% of the same content. So it's time to strip this out, start rewriting stuff. Now, Google doesn't actively punish you necessarily for having duplicate content, but it certainly doesn't help your search results. So take this time just to go and get rid of some of that stuff. The next really simple thing to do is go through and clean up and audit your on-site content. Let's go through and make sure everything is relevant. Have you got anything top of funnel about COVID that you need to be putting in there? Have we got everything in there that we are looking to do? This is the time to make sure that those pages that no one's reading, we're refreshing those, and we're really taking the opportunity to go through. So just run a Google Analytics report, do a site survey, just make sure all the content that you're using is on point. I use Readable. This is another good thing to do. Just go through and just check all your posts actually make sense. I mean, this is a post I did last week, which has got a grade C, so I should be revisiting that to try and make sure it's readable. We've got time. Some of us have got time, some of us are very busy, but if you do have the time, this is good stuff to be doing. And then the next one, getting the basics right, is on-site and off-site content. Now, I was going to use annotation to write these in, but I'm going to remember these. We all know that we need to get our Google's listing right. But actually, now is the time to be getting Google Places right, Bing, 192, all those kind of little ones, because all of these places host content. And just to example, Google Places now allows you to post 500 words of content, okay? It stays up for a week, which means that it's something you need to do fairly regularly, but you can actually run an event in the future which will last 2 or 3 weeks on there. So as you see, I've got a bit of content about today's event, and actually, you know, on the first day that I put that up, I took that screen grab a week or so ago, I've got 9 views. I think by now it's got 50, 60 views. Just these little basics are really useful. Okay, then the next basic to get is to, and this is obviously, I'm a video guy, let's revisit our social media channels. There is no excuse to come out of lockdown without bang on optimized videos. Have we got the thumbnails right? Have we got the copy right? There's a video on YouTube at the moment, how to make pancakes, fluffy pancake recipe, which has got 10 million organic views. Like, what could 10 million organic views do for your brand? And you get that by good thumbnails of faces, food, making it look beautiful, getting all the copy right, using searchable tags. It's like, let's get those basics right. Okay, once you've got the basics right, I think we should also be looking at the sort of content that's working now, and that we should be taking some time to get that out. Long form, webinars and interviews, everybody's watching stuff like this that we're doing today. So those kind of things really work well. But above all, there's a huge appetite to learn new skills. So how-to for beginners and step-by-step videos have increased on search by 65%, and the search term at home has increased by over 50%. So let's start getting content that answers those how-to questions and that uses the at-home search term, because you're going to pick up results really easily. And then finally, what we should be doing now is, I know this is controversial, but we should be starting to advertise. Now, there is a tendency, I think, amongst all brands to batten down the hatches during a recession and really sort of stop advertising. And that's what a lot of brands are doing. But if you look back to the financial crash of 2008, and indeed recessions before that, the brands that spring out the fastest are those that actually do advertising. Now, if we look at the moment, the ROI for paid ads, actually, I've covered that up. Just bear with me while I just get rid of that. The pre-COVID-19, the ROI of paid ads was around 23%, and that has jumped up to nearly 50%. So basically, there's a larger audience and the cost per click is going down. So if you can find some budgets, this is the time to start advertising. So in terms of what you should be doing now, I think you should be checking your basics are right, do those on-site searches, make sure the metadata is right, make sure your speed of your site is quick, then get some content out that's relevant for now and look to advertise. Lovely. Okay, well, I did that much quicker than my allotted 5 minutes, so I'm going to hand back to Gay. Let me just stop advertising. There we go. And, oh, well, was I not sharing that? I meant to. Okay, there you go.
Thanks ever so much. So hello everybody. You are sharing it, yeah?
Have I stopped?
You haven't yet, John. Do you want to unshare?
Sorry, there we go. I only work in video.
That was really interesting, and I learned a lot from that. So thanks ever so much to John. Really fascinating stuff. And now I need to share my screen with you. So here we go. So I'm going to take you through some examples really of what B2B brands are publishing or have been publishing over recent weeks. And I thought it was quite interesting what John was saying there about, you know, the search terms at home, the how-to guides becoming much more important for people, and also the virtual events, webinars, live events. I've certainly seen a lot of those happening, and they are very, very straightforward to create. So if anyone wants to talk about those at any stage, ping me in the chat, because they're quite straightforward. So I'm going to talk to you about what's kind of happened over the recent weeks as I've seen it with our clients, which was in late March, early April. We found that as the pandemic hit Europe, and very specifically as it moved out of Italy and towards the UK and then closer towards the US, we found that everybody stopped publishing stories. So it was like a deer in the headlights. Everybody stopped, and they basically thought, from a corporate point of view, we don't want a message, because I think for a lot of organizations, they were concerned about what they could say and what they should say at a time like this. And I think that's actually really sensible. It's very easy to say the wrong thing at a time like this. So I'm going to focus very much on kind of narratives and storytelling, and the kind of stories that you can find and source in your own organizations. So very early on in that kind of late March, early April, people were really saying nothing. They didn't say anything, they closed down. And then actually very quickly after the following weeks, you found that people and organizations started to come out with the message. These are all from LinkedIn, but they were all really around what they as an organization, back to that sense of purpose and trust. What were they as an organization really doing to help? It wasn't about what they offered. It wasn't about their products. It was really about what value could they add. It was about, they might have been donating money. So a lot of the large organizations, you've got eBay in the middle there. You've got Twitter, who came out with a big donation the other day. You've got a lot of companies who are giving a lot of money. So they very quickly started talking on their social media channels about what they were doing as organizations to give and to help. And then by mid-April, we found companies had started to kind of get their act together and feel a little bit more confident about putting more of the personal message from their organization in front of the camera. They started working out how they could use the technologies that they have to create basic content. So here I'm going to tell you on the left-hand side, we've got, those are just stills that people have shot themselves at home, and then they create social media. The SAP Solutions lead Mayhill there on the left hand side of the screen, that was a video that was made in post-production from still pictures. Then on the right you've got the Deloitte piece there, and you can see that was a recording of a Zoom webinar. So a Zoom or a Zoom call, which you can obviously record, as you'll probably all know, and you can see it looks pretty basic, pretty clunky, but at that stage it was really about corporates saying, we need to get the message out there. We're trying to help, and a lot of the content at that stage was around working from home. So it doesn't surprise me that search term John was mentioning there, at home, you know, there was, if you wanted to read a piece about how to optimize your working at home environment or how to be more efficient at home, my goodness, you had your fill of them. And that was kind of mid-April. So then companies were thinking, what's relevant that I can talk about? These are all tech companies and consultancies very much involved in that tech space. By late April, we found that the larger companies have really, most of them by then, so we were about in Western Europe, we were 5 or 6 weeks in. Asia was almost really moving out of the pandemic, certainly the worst of it by then. And we found that organizations were starting to talk about, they'd started to build content hubs. So they built dedicated content hubs on their websites, usually an expanded blog site with aggregated content on it. And that would be a mixture of formats. So we were starting to see long form, deep dive, interview, insights, articles. This is Cognizant, who are a large Indian tech company, you know, a real global leader with some great content. They've created a hub, but you can look at McKinsey have done the same, and all of the big consultancies have done the same, and a lot of the large tech companies have also done the same. The World Economic Forum built a COVID hub, which we work on. So a lot of focus really now on really deep diving into the challenge of COVID. What does it mean? What does it mean for small businesses? What does it mean for big businesses? So I think we found that people were kind of becoming more acquainted with the story and feeling more comfortable about looking ahead and thinking, my goodness, what is the new normal going to start looking like? And also, these companies are really trying to get in with a message, which is, how can we help you? Yeah, it's a great way of marketing to people. It's what we have built our company on, which is, what can we offer you, which is of value? What can I help you with? I want to build a relationship of trust with you based on the stories that I tell you and the content I deliver. And then we build a relationship, and then I can offer help to you, and then you pay me to do something, in blunt terms. So here we've got Cognizant. They also were doing some really nice little infographics across all different platforms. So this is web, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Insta as well. And you'll see other companies like Goldman Sachs have done the same, thinking really innovatively about how they make content across all platforms. And then we were into, oh, there's one more, that was McKinsey, a video. So lots of post-production video made with stock footage, which you can relatively straightforwardly make in a simple and cost-effective manner, taking stock footage, stock moving footage, or stock stills, overlaying copy and text, and making really nice short form social videos, which have a real impact and do really, really well statistically in terms of your content bundle and anything you're looking to create. And also, for those of you who aren't in a big company, these are things you can make either with a local agency who are going to, you can work with really closely to create these things, or potentially you can make them yourselves. And there are plenty of self-serve tools out there for the very, very simplest of these products. So now we're into May, and then what we found is a whole lot more depth and thought leadership. So you've got much more research-based articles and insight coming out. Companies have really had the time now to commission the research, get some really good solid output developed. And so you're going to find now, you're going to see much more higher quality content out there from the big industry leaders, bigger companies. And again, as a smaller company, you can always do your own version of this. If you know your audience, go to your audiences, go to your clients and talk to them about the pressures they are facing. And then you can start working out, how can we offer them value? So the other thing that we've noticed is a massive migration to virtual events, as you might imagine. We used to do a lot of live event coverage and content development at global events. We used to travel the world to do that. Well, that is out of the window. We won't be doing that for a while. And so now we're doing a lot of virtual events where we either pre-record people in quality, we ask people to self-record, and then we aggregate all the content together. Or you can use multiple platforms depending on your budget to go live. So you can use Zoom as a way of going live. You just need a TriCaster to do a really decent event that you can make look like a TV program, which we did one a couple of weeks ago, relatively low cost, low entry, very straightforward to do almost yourselves, up to what I've put here, which was SAP's Sapphire, which is a very, very big industry event, which migrated online. You'll find the same if you search for Adobe Summit, and you can see what these large brands have done and think about how you can replicate that, or at least learn from that, which is a lot of them ask their delegates and their keynote speakers to record themselves. A lot of the quality is not, it's not pristine, but it's really important. To go back to my earlier message, to build trust is to be there, talk to your customers, talk to your clients, talk to your network, and really be there. Everyone's looking for people to turn to help them. John, back to you.
Thank you very much. I was just furiously in the background, just trying to fix something before I said, yeah, that's super interesting about what works and what doesn't. And actually, I've just sort of adjusted some of my slides because I think Gay's covered some really good stuff there. So I'm just going to cover a little bit about what is working and what isn't, and just sort of build on that. So let me just share my screen again. Okay, so I know we've got to get to questions, so I'm going to just sort of do a top line summary. If we think about how we appreciate the content that we have. I mean, one good way of thinking about it is left brain and right brain. Left brain, we tend to think about things in terms of sort of details and arguments and sort of that kind of very thoughtful process. And our right brain, we think very emotionally, and we think very much from the gut, and very sort of responsive. And if we look at the TV adverts and the content that is working at the moment, we can see that there's a real sort of clear split between things that are going down well and things that aren't. And certainly when you come to be creating content, or you've got you're looking for content ideas, try and avoid some of these. So What is not connecting is stuff on the left-hand side of the brain. So things that are making people think a lot about details, that are kind of very argumentative in their sort of propositions. Direct hard sells are not going down well at all. Ads focused on things are not doing so well. Self-image adverts are not doing so well. And interestingly, ads that were very reliant on words or rhythm, there was a dearth of adverts at the beginning of COVID, which was like somber music and somber voiceover and just text on screen. And that should really be avoided as much as possible. And anything that's aggressive or performance-based seems to be sort of dipping down. This research is actually based on some research by System 1, and it's based on all the TV commercials they've covered. But what is working is character fluent devices. So if you have regular characters that you use, now is the time to be revisiting those, because people are very happy with the familiar, they like the comfortable. So any kind of character devices that you have, indeed scenario fluent devices as well within your topics, family days out, or sorry, bad choice, but some kind of day out, any kind of scenario which is sort of a little bit of a story to it. Anything celebrating betweenness, that sort of human empathy between people and the connections between people is really good. And weirdly, anything set in the past seems to be doing very well, sort of pre-COVID. And then again, anything with a connection to the local place and community. So think right-hand brain, think emotional, think warmth, think connections, and try and avoid left-hand brain, complicated arguments about features and benefits, sales and all those kind of things. So I'm aware we've got to get to questions, so I'm just going to talk you through one little piece of content that I think is really good, a little bit of video content. Anyone who stayed in the Doubletree hotels in America, and maybe elsewhere as well, know that they do these amazing chocolate chip cookies. I've had them, they're very good. And people have been obsessed with how to make these chocolate chip cookies for ages. So much so that if you go online and Google them, there's all these kind of mock recipes trying to sort of recreate the joy of these cookies. Now, Doubletree, massively hit by the downturn because of COVID, obviously struggling to get their message through. So what they did is they've released a video, very simply shot in one of their own kitchens with a self-isolated camera and a self-isolated person, and they're actually giving away the recipe. Now, this is really good because it ties into, even though they're a hotel brand, they've managed to tie into how-to search terms. They've tuned into the trend of cooking. They're being really helpful. They're humanizing. They're they're dropping the corporate mask. You know, it's a really good piece of content and very cheap to produce. It's got some very simple overlays and some fairly simple camera work. So I think in terms of what we should be doing, just getting behind the scenes and humanizing seems to be working really well, and I love that. One thing that's happened to work for me, the most successful piece of content that I've put out on LinkedIn was a video of me in my lounge, just showing me sort of recording stuff in my lounge. Anything that undoes that mask and just lets people behind, even if it's shot on, you know, just your phone or whatever, it doesn't have to be sophisticated. Just letting people into the back of the scenes is working really well. So I can keep going on this kind of stuff for ages, but I think we want to be going to questions, I would imagine.
I think I've got a last bit. I think we might have, I've got a few last bits.
Oh, okay. Sorry, Gay.
And then I think, that's all right. Then I think we're going to questions. So do you want to unshare? And I'll just jump in quickly.
Yes, of course I will. I say that, but I'm filling desperately while I'm trying to unshare this. Hang on. Okay, go to here. Stop share. There we go. Over to you, Gay.
Thank you. I know we're keen to take your questions, so please do pop those into the chat so that we can pick up on any points that you want to at any time. So I'm just going to really kind of building again on what John was saying. I am going to talk more about the owned content space. So kind of what should you be publishing? What can you publish? What should you be looking for in terms of stories, either from yourselves, from your companies, from your industries and sectors that you're working? So I'm going to give just some very quick tips, and then I'll wrap up in 3 minutes and we can take questions. So back to what I'd said before, I'm going to reinforce that message, add value with your content, always offer your users, your readers, something of value. Tell, don't sell is what I'm going to say. It's not about PR. It's not about saying, aren't we brilliant? It's basically about saying, this is what we do and we have learnt, and we're going to share that information with you. So it's amazing what you can get if you share some of your insights, share your knowledge, share your expertise, demonstrate how good you are, demonstrate how trustworthy you are, why people should buy you or use you. be aware and be responsive. So we are journalists in our organisation, so we're always really aware of what's going on around us. We take note of what's happening to our clients. You've got to be aware of the same thing too. If you're selling to people, if you've got a wide range of customers, be really cognizant of what's pressurising them. So we work with the World Economic Forum, as I said, so they are in Geneva, they're working with partners like the OECD, so it's really, really important for them to understand the regulatory environment, the relationship with the WHO. That kind of political context is very important for us. It might be that your local context is much more important for you. Be aware of what's around you. Look for stories that you can tell and get involved with. Show your audiences what you are doing. Even if your business is closed, tell them what you're doing behind the scenes. Tell them how you're working to get up and running again. If you're as big as Microsoft, you can tell them how you're funding support in Washington State. That might not be you, but there's always something you can do, and you can tell your people about what you're doing. The TMF, they're navigating tax relief. They are a client of ours, and basically everybody is clueless about what to do in terms of their tax. They're also, so this was about guidance and what people could do to support themselves with that. Show your human side. So be real and authentic. The most popular piece of content that we've developed for one of our clients was the one about their pets, if you can believe it. It went all the way up to the CEO, who personally wanted his pet included in the piece, and it did really, really well on social. So humanity, show your human or your animal side, but basically be real and authentic, be trustworthy and transparent. Communicate in person where you can. So these are shots from the webinar that we ran, super easy to develop using, you can do a basic one yourself. You can bring in a video partner to support you, or a content partner to help you build the running order. You can basically do anything you want. I am planning a Follow the Sun 3-country live and recorded event in October at the moment with a client in Zurich. Anything is possible. So communicate as a real person where you can. Short videos go really, really well. I've talked about these earlier. You can use stock, or you can use Zoom to create them and record yourself and drop them in. It's super easy to do that kind of thing. And text is still alive. John probably won't love me for saying this. Whilst we do a lot of video, we probably do 50% video and animation and graphics. We actually still do a lot of written content. So if you feel that you can't manage video for some reason, or you're nervous about it, which I understand a lot of people are, because it can seem quite complicated, you can still always write stuff. Don't shy away from putting pen to paper and getting your view out there. And then that was it. There's a quick snap of my book, published in January, but the world has turned somewhat since then. So anyway, I will stop sharing. And I know that Kogan page team are quite keen to go to questions.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Jay. And thank you both for that really informative and interesting talk. It was brilliant, really, really insightful. So we have got a couple of questions coming through. I think the first one from the chat is from Mike. So Mike has asked, what platforms are really popular at the moment? Have you noticed any changes? For example, Twitter versus LinkedIn, or YouTube versus Facebook Live? John, do you want to start with that one first?
Yes, I can. Well, the big winner in all of this is actually WhatsApp. WhatsApp has gone up by 40%. Obviously, there's so many local neighborhood groups that are like, have you got any jam? I need some sugar. Are you okay? These kind of things are doing really very well. Everybody has actually gone up. As far as I understand it, all the channels have gone up in terms of durations. I think that's the big change. So people are watching content on LinkedIn for longer, obviously not on Snapchat and those kind of things, but the big change is not only the platform is WhatsApp, but also durations. Is anyone, I think that's, Gabe, you got any on that, or?
It's actually Stephen Roberts asking about TikTok. I've noticed that my son is on TikTok a lot more. I think all of the platforms and channels have seen an uptick because we're more locked down. We've got less in real life experience, so a lot of things have migrated towards digital. We've noticed, so we work a lot with B2B companies, so it might be a little bit different, but we've noticed a lot of leaning towards LinkedIn. And I think if you depending on what your audience base is on LinkedIn, you'll have noticed quite a lot of LinkedIn Lives, because I don't know if LinkedIn has got LinkedIn Live and LinkedIn Events. LinkedIn Live you have to actually request to get access to, but LinkedIn Events you can they've now opened up free, and LinkedIn events means you can broadcast only to your own followers, i.e. you can't broadcast across LinkedIn. So it is instantly available to everybody, which it wasn't before. So I think that's maybe why we've seen more people trying out new things. I would say mostly go cross-platform always, depending on where your audience and always start with the audience anyway. Where is my audience? What do they need to think, feel and do? You know, how do I access them? I've got, how do you keep content transparent or authentic? Stakeholder engagement. Okay. So, Rob, yes. So there's no easy way of delivering bad news, but I think also in this environment, some of this is comms, is much where I'll put my comms hat on and say, when you're planning any sort of announcements, which you'll know, you want to be thinking about absolutely every single group and how they will receive the information. So, and what the key message or the individual message needs to be to each stakeholder group. And in that way, I believe you can be authentic because you are effectively delivering a specific message to each group. What you can't do is something that is contradictory. So you couldn't go out and put a piece on LinkedIn with a kind of upbeat tone saying, it's okay, we've kept 80% of our clients, we're surviving, and we're still going to give shareholder value, we're going to give dividends at the end of January. You're not going to be, if you then are sacking people, that's a conflict. I think it's better to go out with a CEO message where you have, we're doing what we can to protect our livelihoods and this business. We're working behind the scenes, but we will have to make some tough decisions. And I think that's the authentic comms. It's saying we're doing what we can, but we can't make any promises. No doubt many of you are in the same position, which is, I think all of us are doing, you know, Natasha's sitting there, publisher, John's making videos, I'm a small agency. I'm doing what I can to protect my business, but I can't guarantee that I won't have to lay more people off.
Yeah, that's a really good point, which leads quite nicely into another question we've got from May. May's asked, you shared that we should use our right brain to connect, but in storytelling, what is the best tone, or what do you suggest should be used to create an empathetic personality for country heads? For example, a company president who, instead of being visible to people through platforms, would prefer to say nothing at all.
I can do the company president one. There's quite a few, quite often with C-suite, you know, the CEO will have got to be CEO because they're good at business. They're not always great communicators, and we understand that. Quite often they're super smart but can't articulate the messages well. In that situation, and I've got a client myself who's kind of similar, you have to make sure you give the CEO the opportunity to do that. And if they choose not to, the message has to be, oh, I understand why you don't want to do that, but it's really important as an organisation that we seem to be stepping into the vacuum. So I didn't show you the examples, but I can show you a gazillion examples of CEOs online who filmed themselves and uploaded that to LinkedIn and messaging their people. It's really important for the CEO to be leading from the front. A strong leader needs to be seen. So the thing you've got to do is say, Mrs. CEO, if you're not keen, it's important that the C-suite's represented. So let's talk to the COO, let's talk to the CTO. Is the CFO up for it? You've got to find somebody who's going to represent the senior leadership team to say something, or ask them to write something. You know, it doesn't have to be video. It could be something written where they might feel more in control. Yeah. So the now the name God, but the BlackRock CEO, he issues a letter every year. That's part of what he does. But he, you know, so find the platform that they feel more comfortable in. It might be writing a blog, or you ghosting them a blog.
That's great, thank you, Gay. John, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I think that covered it. I think you, as much as possible, need to be getting some face of the senior figures in there. It might be that actually the CEO that you are talking about just doesn't want to talk on camera, in which case maybe you can record a script and then you just do some cutaways of them in around the office or with some archive. I think even if you just get their tone of voice and their thoughts. Another way to do it, if they really don't want to talk, might be, if they just want to talk and not be on camera, is just to record them, their voice, and then do some really simple animation with some stats and some human looking characters, just so that you've got the tone of their voice. They just might be camera shy, but until I know the specifics, that's quite a hard one. Yeah, I wouldn't add too much to that, but there was a good one here. I think I've just got to go back up. Sorry. Yeah, it's this idea that all the brands wanting to be on every platform all the time, no matter what the target audience is, and how to avoid it. I mean, it's a simple mindset, I think, is that to be at the top of a social channel, you need to be putting a lot of work in there. So as soon as you start spreading yourself thinly, you're doing badly even on the channels that you should be doing really well on. So I've actually had to prove this in a board meeting before to a brand, and you just simply go, right, well, we've got this many hours available to us in the marketing team, and if we spread them across these channels, we're actually giving as much emphasis on, say, LinkedIn as we are to Facebook, and it just doesn't do the maths. So it's quite simple. Like, there's so much competition at the moment. If you're not fighting hard in the trenches that matter, in the actual specific fields that matter, you're just going to get swallowed up by all the channels and not appear on anything.
Yeah. And I'm going to say, so I can pick up on, I've put in there, you could always do a quote card for your shy CEO, which is just a still graphic of their photo with their face, animating text on, super easy. So for startups, which should you outsource? Now, it depends on budget. So an agency, it basically, if you can do it yourself, it's always going to be cheaper. We know that, but it's the opportunity cost of your time, outsourcing it. If you want to do writing, for instance, you can do that relatively cost effectively by finding a freelance writer. You know, that wouldn't be as expensive as bringing an agency in. It might be more management time, but that's a way in through it. I think if you are a smaller business and you think you can do video yourself because you're reticent about bringing an agency in, go for your life, but you will have to recognize that the product won't be the same. So I think it's always about offsetting. It's working out what is your budget, how far can you make it stretch.
Can I pick up on that one, Gay?
Yeah, go for it.
Only because it's a really good question. It's like, when you're bringing in an agency, where do you spend your money, right? Do you do the thinking? Do you do the thinking of writing yourself first, and then bring in a video production agency to make it? And actually, I'd flip it on its head a bit, and I would say the most important time to spend money on the external agency is right at the beginning, where you're coming up with the plan and you're developing a video marketing strategy, as I would call it, for the next 12 months. Because actually, a good planner, a good strategy head, will then give you all the insights and all the thoughts and all the key messagings that you need to be putting out across the year. And then if you haven't got budget to go to a production house, at least when you make it yourself, you know you're making the right thing, even just on a lower budget. So a good planner will be able to go, you can make lots of cheap things. The worst thing is just to come up with a plan yourself, which hasn't been done by necessarily an expert in the field. You take your money, you spend it all on production, but you've spent it in the wrong place. So I would suggest just getting in that helping up the front would mean that you're just going to be more efficient.
I think that's a really good point, and that also links to a question we've had from Adrian, who's someone we know well here at Kogan Page. Adrian said, so we've mentioned videos, it's hard to do professional videos without decent cameras, etc. Do you think a voiceover can work as well?
I'm going to jump in on that one.
Yeah, go on.
John, I know John's going to have a view. So I have got my trusty tool here, which has a setting which gives me 4K recording. So whilst we're all in lockdown, and it's only in extremis that you can we've asked people to self-film. So we're asking our clients to self-film because they literally can't leave their houses. If they're in Switzerland and France, Switzerland, they can go to a studio, but elsewhere they can't. Actually, that is a really good quality output that we transfer it, you can't do, or you can Zoom record, but that compresses the video output really badly. So for the kind of thing that we do, which are quite often short form social videos and sound bites, the self-film option works really well. And we're just making a 10-minute video with Zoom recordings for a large European manufacturer. Now the quality won't be great, but they're really keen just to get something rough and ready out there. So I think it's how you feel about the quality. And if you're concerned about the quality, obviously, then voiceover with stock footage or with stills will also work really, really well. John, I know you're going to have a view.
No, I completely agree. I think the thing is, it's like, goes back to the point before. It's like, if you make the right film with the right sentiment with the right tone, it doesn't actually matter that it's shot on a cheap camera. And also at the moment, like, everyone sacked that off. I mean, even like co-op ads on telly are just shot with loads of sort of handy cams and things. We're making a few projects at the moment where we're interviewing people not over Zoom, but we talk to them over Zoom and they record to their camera, so it's slightly better on their own phone. So I don't think you need to worry about technical quality. worry about putting out the right content that's interesting, and you'll be on a winner.
Yeah. I think linking to that, May has also asked, what video apps do you recommend for those without budget for editing and shooting?
I saw that as well. I mean, I've mentioned a couple which are working for us. So the Zoom, you can record, but it compresses. So, and you won't, bandwidth, for instance, bandwidth on a Friday in the UK is really bad. So you'll get a really bad picture. You can use Camtasia for on-screen recording, and there are some great, really good apps now. And the one's gone out of my brain, but you can make short-form social video with stock footage and graphics. Not bad at all. I mean, like, you know, if I made all my money from doing that, I might be concerned. But I can't remember the name of it now. But there's quite a few of those kind of tools around as well that you can pull on. Yeah,
I think the only thing I think is if you've got already got Photoshop, it doesn't cost much to upgrade to a Creative Cloud license. I mean, my agency uses After Effects, Premiere, Photoshop, all those kind of things. But also, I think Adobe Clip is like a free editing thing. So yeah, Adobe Clip is the easiest one. But if you've already got Photoshop, just upgrade to some of the stuff on that for not much money.
Brilliant. That's really helpful. And I think we've got time just for one last question. So the last one is from Stevo, and he's asked, what will the changing trends in B2B branding be as the situation progresses over the next few months? Quite a big one to end on.
Yeah, I'll leave that one.
I love it. B2B branding. Actually, it'd be good to have a little bit. Can we add any more? What do we mean by Stevo? What do we mean by B2B branding? Do you mean content per se? If you could flesh out, if you mean what is their content going to look like? I mean,
yeah, let's start with content as that's kind of.
So I mean, we've seen that kind of journey from talking about how they're going to instantly respond. My best guess, and what I'm advising clients to do, and what I would be doing myself, is looking forward. So it's all around articulating for you what the new normal will be, and that means for your organization, for your sector, for your industry, for your region, for your company. Really be honest about where you think it's going, what it looks like, and try and project forward, and then start thinking about how am I going to provide solutions for those people. So some of this is about your business per se. How do you skew your business to support the changing nature of the world? So have I changed what I do in my business as a small digital agency? Yeah. I'm not doing real life events anymore. I'm doing virtual events. So you've got to pivot your business approach, and ultimately all of your content will always ladder up. I would always say when I'm advising on strategy, every piece of content ladders up to a business outcome. So if my business outcome is that I want to build growth in the sub-Saharan African region, for the sake of argument, I need to pivot my content towards that. So it's always about saying, what am I trying to achieve as a business? And thereby, who do I need to talk to? What do I need to say? It's all back to the concept of what do I need to say to my audience? How do I say it? Then what stories do I tell? And what platforms do I use to deliver it? And I would say the rules haven't changed, but the context in which we're working has, all bets are off. You know, you don't have a crystal ball. All you can do is make a best guess of where you think it's going. Good luck.
I think that's a really good point, Gay. And Steve has confirmed he meant content, so that was the right answer. John, did you have anything to add to that?
I was just going to pick up on that. I think my single piece of advice hasn't really changed since before the pandemic, in that we need to understand the emotional drivers of the audience we're talking to and the things that are going to make their behaviour change. And every point of a good strategy will go, right, okay, what are the emotional drivers that my content needs, and how do I leverage that in the content? And the fact that people's emotions has changed doesn't mean that the advice is not the same. We just need to understand what people are interested in, why they'd engage with the product, and then sort of leverage those drivers. So the actual drivers would have changed, but the advice of figuring out what emotionally motivates people, I think is the same as it was.
Yeah. Brilliant. Well, thank you so much. I think that's a good point to end on. I think that's all we've got time for anyway. But yeah, thank you both so much, John and Gay, for joining us and for your time. That was all really insightful. I'm sure everyone would agree that it was extremely interesting. So yeah, thank you so much. We do also have a selection of other webinars coming up, which some of you may be interested in. You can get more information on our website and also sign up as well at koganpage.com. So do have a look on there and browse to see what might take your interest. Just a reminder again about the discounts that are also available on both Jon and Gay's books via our website using the code OTP25, where you can save 25%. And also, again, just as a reminder, the recording will be emailed to you after this webinar, so you can revisit it at any time, and we'll be sending that by email shortly. Yeah, so thank you all for joining us. Thanks again to Jon and Gay for all the insight, and I hope you all have a great rest of your day. Thank you very much.
Bye. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.